In this episode, we talk all about the NBA draft and NBA free agency with Cody Darwick of the Slate Podcast.
This is strange.
Everywhere you turn, it's the same old sports talk, the same headlines, the same news, and the same boring information. This podcast is here to change all of that. We bring you hot sports takes, winning sports betting strategy and picks, reliable gaming industry news, and breaking interviews with some of the biggest names in sports business. My name is Ryan Knup, and welcome to the Knup Sports Show. All right, welcome to the Knup Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Knup, and I'm here with a very special guest today. I'm here with Cody Darwick. Cody, are you with me?
Yes, I am, Ryan. Thanks for having me on.
Man, I appreciate you being here with me to talk some sports. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Up here in New York. I know I was complaining to you about our hot New York City weather. You're down in Florida, so I quickly swallowed my words, but happy to be here.
That's exactly right. Anytime anybody talks about the heat, I just say, "Hey, I'm in Florida." But you know what? It's not bad. It's probably better than that freezing weather that you get way up north in the middle of the winter. So I won't complain when I get this heat. So, well, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. For all of you listeners out there, appreciate you joining us each and every time we get on here, we jump on. This is going to be a little different of a setup. I know a lot of times you hear me do standard interview type things. Today, Cody and I are just going to talk sports. We're going to talk some NBA, with the recent draft going on and then the big free agency coming up. We figure we'll kind of talk about the NBA and go from there and see where it goes. But Cody and his brother, and is it just you and your brother, or who all run your podcast? I think you have your own podcast as well, right, Cody?
Yes, I do. So my brother and I started Full Slate last September. We put out a little over 70 episodes. Me and my brother will pretty much put out a weekly podcast pretty consistently every Sunday night called the Sunday Scaries. Pretty much a topical sports gambling view on whatever is going on. Right now it's a little bit bare. Like you said, we got some NBA going on. My brother is in Europe right now, so we're on a little bit of a break. But we also do a baseball podcast. So me and a couple buddies do a pod through the same channel on iTunes, Spotify, whatever podcast listening apps you use. But yeah, our focus is sports, topical sports with a sports gambling focus. So looking during the NFL season, we did 2 a week. We would do a pick'em pod, and we would do a Sunday Scaries pod after everything probably went wrong, or sometimes right. You never know. But that's a little bit on Full Slate, and we've been going for 9 months strong now.
That's really cool. And I think that's kind of why, I related very well to you, when we touched base out on a forum or something like that. And because as most of you guys know, my brother and I started, Knup Sports and which led to this podcast. And we do a lot of things together here as well. So I thought that was pretty cool that you guys started that. And I listened to a few of your episodes, kind of binge listened to the other day to a few of them. And you guys are good. You guys are humorous. You kind of add a little humor to sports, and you do a really good job with it. So I'd really urge any listeners to go out and search Full Slate, find the podcast, and make it part of your weekly or daily routine to listen to what they do. So props to you guys, Cody.
Thank you, Ryan. I really appreciate those kind words. And sounds like you're a bright person yourself, you and your brother doing the podcast together. So just trying to achieve a similar thing,
I don't know if bright's the right word, but we have fun with it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if that would be our classification either. But like you said, we try and keep it loose and light, and we're not professional sports handicappers or touts. We're just people who are interested in the sports gambling space, and obviously diehard sports fans and everything that comes with that. Even a little reality TV talk for anyone who's interested in that realm.
Well, I just got done watching the first episode of Big Brother, so I guess that would call me interested.
All right,
interested party. But okay, well, we'll quit boring with that here. I want to jump into NBA. It's at the time of this recording, it's kind of a very popular time in the NBA offseason. We just had the NBA draft. I think we're at 4.5 days till NBA free agency. So Let's talk NBA. What did you think of the draft? I'm going to throw a lot at you here.
Sure.
We'll talk about it all. But what did you think of it any winners, any big losers, any surprises? I'm going to give the floor to you for a few minutes. Anything that really stood out to you from this past NBA draft?
Sure. I mean, right off the jump, to me, I'm a diehard Lakers fan, and everything that Lakers trade has ultimately turned into for the Pelicans. Props to David Griffin. I think more of a Lonzo Ball fan than most, but they were able to flip an asset that Anthony Davis was clearly out. He wore the "That's All, Folks" shirt to the last game that he showed up for them, and they were able to get a lot of assets and really fast forward the rebuild. Obviously, it helps getting the number one pick and generational talent in Zion Williamson. But I liked what they did. I like that they moved out of the 4 slot, moved back, picked up more assets. I thought it was a good move for them. They got off that terrible Solomon Hill contract, just give themselves some more flexibility. In terms of winners from the draft, I saw a joke article online that I do want to briefly mention. I don't know, Ryan, if you'll remember this, but like, they said something about like Kleenex tissues being a big winner from the draft, just because the first 3 picks were all like sobbing, and I don't know. Personally, I don't remember the top guys ever showing that much emotion. Right? It's kind of shocking considering Zion has been the default number 1 pick essentially from like December on. Right?
It's like, how are you surprised about that? Right? How did you not prepare yourself mentally for that?
Yeah, I thought it was awesome though. It was just like such a human moment, right? All these guys are, Zion especially is larger than life at this point. He's about to sign a probably $200 to $300 million shoe deal. He's 19 years old. He has millions of Instagram followers, but the guy had some raw emotion there, and I think it was good to see that. But in terms of like actual draft winners, I think the Hawks, I like what they did. They moved up to 4. They took DeAndre Hunter, who I think is he's a high floor guy. I think worst case scenario, he's going to be able to be a solid defender on the wing, fill out that Hawks roster, and I find myself with my friends being a little bit on Cam Reddish Island. So they got him at 10, super talented wing, very long, great shooter. He didn't put it all together at Duke. He's weirdly like sat out the Sweet 16 game, which was just like an odd thing to happen. But I think there's a lot of sleeper potential there, especially on a team like the Hawks that has a lot of good young pieces. Trae Young, John Collins, Kevin Huerter. They're not going to ask too much of him, so I think he's going to get a lot of good looks, and he'll be able to really grow into his own there and not be asked to do too much. The guy I've loved since I really watched him play for the first time in November was Kobe White of the Tar Heels.
Oh, yeah.
The guy is just an energizer, buddy. He gets the ball and goes. Yeah, an absolute scorer. He's fearless. He's relentless. He's clearly a great teammate. He just puts it all on line. I don't know, Ryan, did you see the video of him when he found out Cam Johnson got picked with the 11th overall pick?
Yeah, pure joy for his teammate, right?
Right. I think that's the kind of thing, if you're the Chicago Bulls, coming off a terrible season, I think you love having that guy in your locker room. So I like what they did there. I think he'll pair up nicely with Zach LaVine and Markkanen and Wendell Carter. And I think I think they'll be an interesting league pass team. I'm not going to say they're going to contend for a playoff spot, but I like what they're doing there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, we all know the Pelicans did a great job with this draft. I mean, how can you go wrong with Zion? But I think that trade, getting all those picks and really moving up or getting rid of that 4 pick, like you said, was a good move as well. So I think they were the big winners. I think everybody is very clear cut on that. A couple things I had my eye on, and these were more local type things that I was really looking at. It's always a joke here in Orlando. Who are the Magic going to pick this year? Because every single year they seem to be pick the wrong guy. I don't know. And that's easy to say from our seat, right? That they picked the wrong guy. But it's just they seem to pick these guys that don't fit in what they need or don't quite match what they need. And they did it again this year. They were kind of like the what pick? Like they picked Chuma Okeke or Okiki or however you pronounce it, but he's coming off a big injury, has a little talent, but kind of just fits in that same profile with what they already have. a wing defender type player. They really need shooting guard. They really need guards in general. And I was just shocked that they went there with that. So that was one thing. I don't know if you have any input on that at all or know anything about that situation, but
Yeah.
that was one thing that really shocked me.
So are you a Magic fan?
I mean, kind of living 10 minutes from Amway, it kind of forced me to. I moved
Okay.
here 4 years ago, so I'm not like a diehard,
Right. But you follow.
grown. Yeah, but I've kind of grown to like them. We go to games and we enjoy rooting for them. And then with them being a playoff team this past year, it kind of added to the buzz around here in Orlando. And so there was a lot of talk about what they were going to do with this pick. And I think we kind of all got deflated a little bit with that pick.
Yeah, it's very on brand for the Magic. Like you said, you guys seem to be stockpiling these guys. It seems like there's a certain height you have to be drafted by the Magic, right? Somewhere between 6'7", 6'8" to a 7-footer. Unclear what position you play, I guess, except for Mo Bamba, who's a center, right? Yeah. Jonathan Isaac seems like a nice piece. Aaron Gordon is coming into his own a bit, right? He's very versatile, but at the end of the day, DJ Augustine was the starting point guard for you guys. I mean, now, if it couldn't feel longer ago, but I remember doing the podcast with Tyler right after the Magic beat the Raptors in the first game of the playoffs. Like DJ Augustine went off. Sometimes I have to remind myself he's still in the NBA. I was surprised that you guys went another big, especially Okiki. He's really talented. He was great in the tournament for Auburn. That was one of the most fun teams to watch, I thought. Sure. To just run and gun. But he's injured now. So I think there's a bit of uncertainty there. And I don't know. I think there are just other guards available. Like the guy who went right after, right? Nickel Alexander Walker. Virginia Tech scorer. That seems like more of the mold of the player you want, but again, who knows? I guess we'll see what happens in free agency, right? Do you think you guys have a chance of re-signing Vucevic? It kind of seems like all the rumors are elsewhere from what I've read.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm hearing too. Mostly they are rumors, but I think his time's about done here in Orlando. To be honest with you, I think he's going to go elsewhere. But we'll see what happens there. I don't see him signing back with Orlando.
Yeah. Who did you think were the biggest losers of the draft? I'm
curious. I'm gonna go one more spot here real quick because I wanted to talk about Nasir Little, and this is again bringing my local flavor to it. So he played in the conference that's just right here, the high school conference. He played at Orlando Christian Prep, and my son played for the team. I mean, team that played against them and all this. So we was really close to his situation and everything that happened. With him going to North Carolina, and he was into some controversy there when he went. But then coming out of high school, the kid was a McDonald's All-American MVP. He was touted as being like top 3 to 5 pick, possibly coming out of high school. Yeah, after his freshman year, they were saying he was projected in that top 5 range. And to see him fall to 25th, and I think they kept showing him on camera, and it just kind of deflated me internally. But what did you think about that? I mean, have you watched him play at all? I have my thoughts on him as a player, but I was curious from a kind of an outsider perspective what you thought about him. Obviously he didn't start at North Carolina, but has a ton of talent, and then falling to 25. What were your thoughts there?
Yeah, North Carolina was one of the teams. Of course, they're always on ESPN, but I found myself throughout college basketball season. I went to IU. I'm a diehard IU basketball fan, but UNC was kind of the team that I was rooting behind. Kobe White, Cam Johnson. I like what they were doing. Luke May. And Nasir Little, I was shocked. Early in the season, I'm reading about him. He's, like you said, a projected top 10 guy. He's not starting. I'm thinking to myself, how is this even possible, right? But I really liked what I saw from him the last couple months of the season. In February and March, I thought he played well. I think he has a versatile game that'll translate to the NBA. I don't totally know what the red flags were that led to him sliding this far. I think the fact that his position is a little uncertain, right? I think he's maybe a plus size small forward to a
I think they're questioning his shooting ability. I think they're questioning his shooting ability at that size and that position. He's going to have to play kind of the three more in the NBA, and I don't know that he has the shooting. He has the athletic ability, out the wazoo, but I don't know if they're sold on his shooting. So I think that was where the hang up was.
Yeah, I like him though in that spot a lot for Portland. I think that's
sure.
Right. They made the Western Conference Finals. Damon, CJ are great. Zach Collins is a good up-and-comer, rim protector. And I think this is just another guy they can add to the rotation that'll give them good minutes off the bench. I don't see why he can't turn into like Al-Farouq Aminu 2.0. I think I'm always pro taking a shot on guys who can shoot, just because I think that's the one skill you can really learn, right? If you can rebound, like he can rebound the ball, that's the one thing that really translates to the NBA, right? If you can grab boards in college, you could do that in the NBA. You can do that off the bench and be an energy guy. We saw it with like Kenneth Faried. We see it with, oh my God, what's the guy's name from Louisville who's on, I'm blanking on it, on the Clippers now.
Oh gosh, I'm blanking too. I know who you're talking about, so I can't think of his name.
Two guys with sports podcast. Just
it'll come to us.
Yeah,
we'll have to delete this little segment out.
Yeah, exactly. It's fine. We'll cut this out.
Guys, we don't know.
Yeah. But no, I think his game will translate to the NBA. Yeah, there's a couple guys that felt like that. I always feel bad for those guys that are actually at the draft in the room on the floor. And basically just sitting there, kind of looking like lost puppies. I mean, Bol was the worst one, of course. I liked what I saw from him in college until he got hurt. It was pretty early, but he was fun to watch, and he could shoot. He could do everything. He's kind of like a unicorn, and a foot injury for a big guy is unnerving. I think there's some questions about his motor and things like that, and his desire to be great, which is tough. I mean, especially like, think about it. This guy comes into college. He's a projected top 10, top 15 pick. And then you go to the draft and you fall to the second round. And now you're fighting for an NBA roster, and you could find yourself playing for like the Reno Rough Riders, right, of the G League in 6 months. It's tough.
Yeah. So besides the Orlando disappointment, and I think they were one of the biggest losers of the draft, I guess the only other team, or maybe it was just the only other pick that I was kind of questioning in my mind, was the Wizards at number 9. I'm not sold on Hachimura being a real great pick there. I think his offensive questions are just so great that it's like, I don't know if he was worth that pick. So I think the Wizards might have been a loser in my mind just with that pick. They did snatch, was it Schofield, I think, in the second round, which is a pretty good pick.
He's a beast.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good pick in the second round. But, gosh, that first round pick with Hachimura, I just didn't think he should go there. That was just my opinion.
I'm with you there. I think Hachimura is the kind of guy that it was a great college player. I think he'll be a solid role player for them, but I don't think that's what you're shooting with, right?
No,
with 10 the 9th overall pick, you need more than that. The guy on the Clippers is Montrezl Harrell, by the way.
That's
the guy. The biggest head scratcher pick for me, just being a Big Ten, following the Big Ten so closely, was the Warriors with their first round pick. They took Jordan Poole from Michigan at 28. It's obviously they have so much unknown going into this offseason, right? Which I'm sure we'll get to. But I think you want to get someone that could come in and contribute day one. And Poole hit a huge shot in the tournament versus Houston 2 years ago. He killed IU one game this year, and other times I watched, he was pretty good. But I don't know that he was worthy of a first-round draft pick. I was shocked by that one. I know he has NBA size, but to me, passing up on Carson Edwards, I know he's undersized. I know he's 21 versus Poole's probably like 19 or 20. But like in the NBA, it makes a difference, right? But sure. I think Carson Edwards is just instant offense. I think he's going to be a better version of Nate Robinson in the NBA. Like, I like his ability to create for others more.
Good comparison, yeah.
So to see that, I was kind of shocked because especially coming into this next year, assuming Clay's out most all the season, who knows? Durant's not gone. Durant's out, right? So they're going to need some offense from other places. Seemed like Carson Edwards would have been a nice fit there.
Yeah, definitely agree. Okay, let's shift on. Let's shift on to free agency. So you just mentioned Kevin Durant, and obviously there are questions around. I would say 3 or 4 really big names still here in the NBA on where they're going. So we got guys like Kawhi Leonard, guys like Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Kemba Walker, guys like that are all up for free agency.
Yeah.
Man, we got like 4.5 days left. This is kind of an exciting time. Like this time of year always excites me because it's so much almost like Christmas. Like, oh man, where's he gonna go? Or what who's gonna form the super team this year? Who's gonna kind of get together? So first of all, what do you think about Kevin Durant? Where do you think he's going to sign? Do you think he's going to stay with Golden State, or is he going to shoot out to the, New Jersey, New York, somewhere in that range? What do you think?
Yeah, I think this is the best time of the year in the NBA, which for someone who
Agreed.
loves it's like reality TV meets sports. Plus you throw in Twitter and it's just like this explosion of ingredients that is just nonstop entertainment. Where do I think Kevin Durant's gonna go? I think he's heading out east. I think the Warriors chapter has kind of run its course, right? You got 2 rings, a couple MVPs out of it, proved that he's the most important player on that team.
Sure.
And I think he's just ready for a new chapter and to really build out his own thing. Everything I'm reading now is him going to the Nets with Kyrie, which if you would have said that, I mean, I have so many Knicks fans out here that are just like, woe is me. And I don't blame them. Sky's falling, right? Like, I don't know, 2 months ago, they were getting Zion and KD, right? And now there's a chance they have neither. And the Nets get KD and Kyrie, the guys they were supposed to get. So I still think KD is going to go to the Knicks. I still think that's going to happen. I just have a really hard time seeing him going to the Nets over the Knicks. I think he can sit out the entire year. They have RJ Barrett, who's a serviceable player. I think will be a solid guy in the league, average, I don't know, 18 to 20 a game. They'll be able to get another solid draft pick next year. And then because I don't see them signing 2 max free agent guys. So that's what I think is going to happen there. I don't know. What do you think?
Unless Kyrie decides to follow Kevin Durant. I mean, although I don't know. I think Kyrie's pretty set on the Nets. From what I'm hearing and reading, it sounds like the Nets are number 1 for him. But I think he's trying to recruit Durant there. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm kind of with you. Durant, it feels like Durant to the Knicks is right. It feels like, it can be his team. He can kind of lead. I want to say RJ Barrett's a little like Kevin Durant. I mean, nobody's like Kevin Durant, but I could see Durant kind of mentoring Barrett a little bit, coming up through that system. So I think you're right there. I could see him going there. I would feel bad for them if they lost out on both of them. Jeez, that would be miserable for the Knicks.
It'd be great feeder, honestly. Just more Knicks misery. But yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. Like you said, the amount of big name. I mean, last year we got LeBron, right? LeBron changed teams. That's massive. It sends ripple effects. And if you think about it, like this time last year, Anthony Davis was the top young guy in the league. Giannis hadn't taken this next step. The Pelicans won the series. They swept the Trailblazers without Boogie. Everyone was ready to anoint AD the second coming. Now he's also on the Lakers, right? Just think about that for a second. And we have a real chance that Kawhi Leonard, who willed this Raptors team to a final,
put him on his back. I mean, he
put
just
him on his
carried him.
back. Right. I mean, literally put them on his back in that Game 7 versus the Sixers. Nobody else wanted to shoot in that game. I was like, how is this really happening? And there's a real chance he leaves for LA and goes. He's not going to go to the Lakers. I think there's a real chance he goes to the Clippers. I think he stays actually in Toronto. and he does like a 1-and-1 deal. So he'll get a max 30+ million this year. He'll have the player option for next year. So he can kind of give him, he can be like, okay, I'll run this back for another year. I'm a god in Canada. I got them the ring. And like, yeah, maybe I'll trot this back again.
Yeah. I think you almost have to. You almost have to if you're him.
So
at this
hard
point.
to read, right? So like, how can you get a read on Kawhi Leonard?
Yeah. But I think you have to do that at this point. You put him there. You got to give it a chance. How many can you win? Can you win another one? Could you add pieces to win another one? I mean, the East is still fairly weak, I would like to say. I mean, I think Toronto has as good of a shot as anybody there to go back. And so, I mean, obviously Milwaukee's going to be good again, but yeah, I mean, I think he stays there as well. Hey, I wanted to get your thoughts on. You said you were a Lakers fan, so D'Angelo Russell. First of all, do you see him coming back? And second of all, do you want him to come back?
I mean, this is all like a bizarro world I'm living in. I feel like as a Lakers fan, being a huge Kobe guy, now I have LeBron in my life, and I have to root for him, which is a weird conflict of interest.
Sure.
This D'Angelo Russell saga is insane. I was very excited when the Lakers drafted him. He played on a lot of really, really bad teams, and he was always just a good guy, bad team player. I was really happy for him. Got to see a bunch of his games, just being local in the area on TV, and he took it to another level this year. As an all-star, asserted himself that he could lead a team to the playoffs and be the guy. And I mean, they won a game versus Sixers. I think at this point, my like hierarchy of Lakers potential free agents is probably this. Kawhi, 1, of course, probably not going to happen. 2 is probably Kyrie. I also don't think that's going to happen. Kemba and D'Angelo. When I'm thinking about those two, I almost think I want D'Angelo more. He's younger. He'll be cheaper. And I just love watching him play basketball. The guy has an incredible feel for the game. I think you pair him up to be the third guy with LeBron and AD, and I think that's a real nice team. But if they swing and miss on all those guys, I really don't. It would kill me if they like maxed out Jimmy Butler. I don't want that to happen. I think he was great for the Sixers. I hope the Sixers bring him back because I liked watching that team, but I think not for this Lakers team. Jimmy Butler seems to stir the pot everywhere he goes.
Sure, yeah. So it sounds like right now he wants to go to Houston, which I think personally may be a train wreck. I don't think he'll be happy there either. How could you really be happy playing with James Harden and his, one-on-one basketball all day?
Yeah.
I don't know. I could see that going poorly for Butler, but Butler seems to just jump. I mean, what is it? 1 year here, 1 year there, 1 year there. This will be his third team in a row if he moves again. So I'm with you on Jimmy Butler, but I'm not really sold on D'Angelo Russell. But I haven't watched him as much as you have. Not being a Lakers fan, he just seems like I don't know what it is. He just doesn't seem like a good team player.
I think
that's what the coach in me talking, right? He just doesn't seem like he'd be fun to play with, and I don't know that he would really, especially after going to the Nets and being the number 1 and really being the guy. I'm not sure he wants to come back and be the number 3, the clear number 3. I could just see some bitterness, I guess, inside of him. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely know why you would think that related to him being a bad teammate after the whole Swaggy P thing, where he took the Snapchat of Swaggy P talking about cheating on Iggy Azalea when he was like 20. So that was tough. That was a tough one for him. But I mean, that Nets team, they like had so much fun. For an NBA team, I think it's normal, right? College basketball, the bench is very into it and they're all going crazy. But NBA, that doesn't really happen. But that Brooklyn Nets team had like a really good rapport together.
True.
And he was the alpha dog of that team. So I think he's grown up. Being a 19-year-old thrust into the limelight of LA. You're the best guy on every team you've ever been on. Now you're paired up with like Kobe Bryant at the tail end. You're like, well, I just want to get my shots up. I think it was a weird situation for D'Angelo. But yeah, I'd be excited to bring him back. I also just think from a pure entertainment factor angle that would be quite interesting. And Magic has already been in the shadows. I read an article today on The Athletic saying how D'Angelo has matured and he's a different player than he was on the Lakers, and he's taken the next step, and the Lakers would be silly not to try and get him back.
We have no lack of entertainment value when you talk LA Lakers and that organization. There's always an something entertaining going on.
Right, 100%. I'm curious to know your thoughts. The big Mike Conley trade that I feel like went under the radar, like last week. Did you see that one to the Jazz?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't think a lot about it because Mike Conley's always been one of those players that kind of lives under the radar. I mean,
yeah,
I think that at one point he signed a really big deal, and it was like one of the biggest deals at one point.
Yeah, it was the biggest. It was the biggest one when he signed it, and he's never been an All-Star.
Yeah, which is like weird. But him to the Jazz, I mean, I could see him being a good fit with the Jazz there. I don't know. I guess I hadn't really thought too much about that. Did you have thoughts about that trade or something that stood out to you?
Yeah, to me, I think you hit on the fact that the East is a little weak. I almost think the West, it's the power is swinging to the East. Yeah. Of course, we have to see where some of these big guys land, but think about it, the Warriors take a huge step down. The Rockets seem to be in absolute chaos this offseason. You have the Lakers, who are the favorites in Vegas right now to win it all, when they have essentially 3 players on the roster, which is insane in its own way. So I think the Jazz making that move is pretty interesting because they have a great young guard in Donovan Mitchell from Louisville. I think he went through a little bit of a sophomore slump this year, but really solid. Rudy Gobert in the middle. And I just think from like a value standpoint, I don't think they gave up anything to get Conley on the cheap, get him a new start. In Utah, they gave up like the 20th first round draft pick, Grayson Allen, and there was one other piece that like didn't really excite me if I was a Grizzlies fan. I was just surprised that was the market for Mike Conley. I felt like, yes, he's never been an All-Star, but him and Gasol and those Memphis teams were 50-win teams year in, year out. They've taken a step back, but I mean, we saw Marc Gasol really played big minutes for Toronto.
I don't think they would have won without him, to be honest with you. I think he was a big piece of, I mean, maybe not, from scoring and rebounding side, but just this presence I thought was huge, and he hit some big shots as well.
Exactly. That's why I think the Conley deal was a nice pickup for the Jazz in the Western Conference that going into next year, you're going to have like 5 or 6 teams being like, hey, why not us, right? I mean, you have Portland, who's there this year, the Lakers. You're going to have the Jazz, the Nuggets, or the 1 seed for most of the year, right? You still have OKC with Russ and Paul George. That's 5. And we're not even talking about the Clippers yet, which if they add Kawhi Leonard, I think that makes them the favorites. Right? So it's going to be an interesting couple weeks we have here that we're leading into for sure.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. I got my eye on it all, and it's always fun. So every day there's some new news that comes out, but we'll see what happens. So, all right, well, let's shift one more time here before we go. I want to talk a little bit about, so most of the listeners of this show, so, we typically talk sports betting or sports betting industry type news. And I know you're in that space as well, and you have your eye and your pulse on the industry. I'd love to hear, I guess, any thoughts you have about sports betting in the United States, or do you follow the news there? What are you thinking? I guess you say you live in New York right now, correct?
I do, yes.
So there's been some news in New York over the past few weeks that has been, not all good, but not bad. Great. At least they're going forward a little bit. Right. What are your thoughts on, I guess, where New York goes, and then maybe some other news that's going on in that space?
Sure. So I was a little disappointed that mobile got shot down for the time being in New York. I grew up in New Jersey, so I think being close to the success that New Jersey's had as a state in rolling out this post-PASPA kind of landscape, I think the way they did it was great, right? You enable mobile, and they've seen over 3 billion in handle. Over 80% of the bets are from mobile, which makes sense, right? Like, if you're not very close to a casino or a sports book, you can do this offshore, right, through a different website or whatever it may be. You don't necessarily need to go to get action on games. So I love what New Jersey did. They're rolling out a ton of promotions. When it comes to New York, I know they basically they legalize on-premise sports betting, which will be a handful of casinos upstate. Sure. Which I don't think moves the needle, but I will say the one thing that excited me, that seems like they're pushing forward in the right direction, is the in-stadium sports betting. So Illinois has rolled that out. Yep. It seems like they're making progress about a potential sports book at Wrigley. DC is kind of going to be the first mover, or one of basically I think where the Capitals play. They're going to put in a sports book there, and
that'll be cool.
Right. It seems like MSG and Yankee Stadium might, at some point down the road, get in-stadium betting. And I think, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this too, Ryan, but I think the in-game, whether it's sports betting, whether it's some kind of daily fantasy spin, whether it's just some type of gaming app for in-game, I think that's the future. I think... I still will bet on games, right, and do spread or money line or parlaying and teasers. But I think we're about to hit a phase where we're post 1 year PASPA repeal. There's a lot of innovative apps coming into the space. And I think there's just going to be even more and more innovation going forward, whether it's the total gamification. So you're at a baseball game and you're betting on kind of the next pitch or whatever it may be, right? Like, I think that's a way of the future, and to really just make this thing even more widespread. What are your 2 cents as someone? I just moonlight as the podcaster and I'm interested in this stuff, but this is your full-time thing.
Well, so first of all, I don't think a state is truly going to win without mobile. I think they're really, really missing out without taking on mobile, and I just don't get that. That doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Yeah.
It's like, man, it's like, how do you not see it, or have, I don't know if it's they don't see it or don't have the political infrastructure in place to be able to make it happen. I don't really know all of the ins and outs of why that's not happening in New York, especially, and then other states as well. But you're not going to win without mobile. I think you are 100% accurate when saying, in-game fan engagement type apps. Those are the future for sure. I mean, they're popping up every other day. New app ideas, new game ideas, new free to play type things, because not everybody, even though it's going to be legal, not everybody's going to want to gamble, right? People have things against gambling. People maybe don't have the money to necessarily gamble, but they still enjoy that type of activity. And so the free-to-play games and the free-to-play apps, I think, are going to be huge. They are huge already, but I think they're going to continue to be huge. And, as the data continues to improve and kind of keep getting better, you're going to see even more and more of these types of things, real-time type platforms that come up. And obviously, the benefit of these, free-to-play games for the operator is they're gaining leads, and they are able to now have data on the consumer. And so, it's kind of a win-win, I guess, in the industry. But, I mean, you're seeing a lot of those pop up now. So I think you're 100% right that that's the future. And one thing on the in-stadium betting, I think that will be so fun. I mean,
fun, right?
It's in bars. I mean, I even think in bars, like, I just don't get why we're, if you're going to legalize it, why are you being so, I guess, short-sighted and saying, only a few casinos or whatever? I mean, I want to go to Buffalo Wild Wings and sit there and watch a game and bet on the game. And I'm going to do that. Maybe I'm going to do it offshore if I can't do it legally through that state. And so,
Right.
man, they're just missing out because people do that right now, and they need to understand. I really think the states and the legislators and the politicians don't truly understand the amount of money that is being sent offshore, that is still being fed offshore. I don't think they truly understand that.
Don't you think New Jersey should just serve as like a perfect test case where it's like, hey, why don't we adopt this? They're making a ton of tax revenue, which is great. I know the governor of New York, Cuomo, has kind of said that I think he's having some issues with it, like ethically. But at the end of the day, if it goes back to helping educational programs or healthcare programs or just money for the government, right, to spend on all these various things, I think it's a plus for society. And like you said, I think the bigger piece is people are going to get their action and like regardless, right? So let's like take our head out from the under the couch cushion and be like, oh, this is like actually a huge up and coming business. It can create a ton of jobs and innovation. I think it's like a win-win. I think it's been really interesting as someone, I work in finance in my day job, so I'm not as well versed in kind of the legal world, but following state by state is something that I found really fascinating. Like Maine kind of came out of left field from everything I've read about, and they passed mobile. And for just to get a sense, so it seemed like their operator license is, I think, $2,000 to apply, or $20,000. Like a laughably low number, whereas
it's low. Yeah.
In Illinois, I think it's like 10 million, I believe. So it's something insane, right? So all these states.
Well, I won't even go there. I mean, I lived in Illinois for 15 years, and they are always difficult. It's always difficult in Illinois. So yes, their licensing was kind of laughable, but I'm sure they have their reasons
too, right?
Yes. Definitely.
Yeah, so it'll be fascinating, I think.
Yeah, and it's really it's strange. The state by state thing really is strange to me, and I'm not as versed in the legal side of it either. I mean, I'm very fascinated by it like you are, but I'm not far from a lawyer or anything to really understand, I guess, why it's this way. But I can't help but think that like we're going to have all this going on over the next 5-10 years, all these states doing their thing. And then the federal government's going to jump in and say, oh, yeah, let's just make it all standard across the board or something. Something's going to happen at a federal level that's going to kind of erase all the state by state stuff. And it's almost going to be like a big waste of time or something. Because it's my opinion that I think the federal government should just come in and say, yeah, it's legal in the United States. Here's the rules. Make it happen. And it's not, every state for itself and all of this mumbo jumbo. But again, I'm far from a professional in that side of it. It's just how I feel it. I feel like we're treating it as 50 different countries where we're not treating it as the United States, sports betting in the United States. So we'll see.
Yeah, it definitely will be interesting. That much we can guarantee. Who knows what's actually going to happen, right? But no, I think especially I'm also excited to see how the adoption of the in-stadium betting works, because I think that's the first wave of getting the more casual consumer engaged in sports betting and introduced to it. And I think there's going to be a level of education that's going to have to come with this, right? Like a lot of people don't understand what -110 means or +150, right? So there's going to be that kind of knowledge gap that's going to have to be bridged. But I think going forward, it's going to be exciting. And I know for myself, like I'm a huge baseball fan, and quite frankly, Major League Baseball is falling behind. They're not innovating. And I think sports betting is a way that they can differentiate themselves, because the game is broken down into so many like sub events, right? A pitch, an at bat, half inning, an inning, and I know like PointsBet's doing some pretty cool stuff with it, but there's so many ways to try and monetize this thing, right? And make it more engaging for the customer, instead of everyone just being like, oh, baseball's so long, it's so boring. Well, how do you make this more interesting, right? Let's gamify it even more.
For sure. Definitely. Well, it's going to be interesting to see where the industry goes. I mean, it's a space you're in. It's a space I'm in. We all enjoy it. So we all have our eyes on it. I can't wait to see where it goes. But for sake of time here, Cody, I don't want to take much more of your time. I want to give you a chance here one more time. What's to come with Full Slate? So do you guys have future plans, or you just have more of the same? I'm sure you're looking forward to football. Some big plans this football season for your podcast. Give me a little bit of a teaser on what you guys have to come.
Sure. So we have some exciting guests in the hopper. I think Ryan we will definitely get you on at some point. So for a nice little cross promotion there. But we have some more people in the sports gambling space, working for operators, working for media companies in the space. We've been lucky enough to get someone from the Action Network on, who's an editor and content producer there. We've had a couple of CEOs in the startup space who are doing really interesting things, really trying to monetize live gaming, rolling out exchange trade betting. So yeah, we're going to get some more interviews in the near future, people that are in either the sports world, sports gambling world, or maybe sports media world. That's kind of the three areas we're trying to target. So we have more of that. And yes, like you said, extremely excited to get football back into the mix. When it comes to running a sports betting focused podcast, nothing is set up better than the NFL. Just because the lines come out every Monday.
Exactly.
There are fantasy angles. There are, of course, betting angles. There's everything. So it works well from that angle, where you can get a pick'em pod, you can get kind of the Sunday recap and where your lock of the week went wrong. So yeah, we're gonna keep doing that and continue to try and build this thing out. So yeah, awesome. Follow us on iTunes. You can find us Spotify at Full Slate. And we're on Twitter and Instagram as well at @full_slate_pod. So give us a follow.
Oh, that's perfect. And yeah, we'll put all those links. We'll put those in the show notes of this. So you will find those in this podcast show notes. So no worries there, listeners. Don't have to scramble, write it down. You guys, it'll be in the post. You can put it there as well. So Cody, I appreciate you joining me. It was an awesome talk. Let's see what happens in the NBA this coming weeks. I'll be excited to. I'll ping you afterwards, and we'll have a little chat about the NBA. But hey, I appreciate you joining me, bud.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Ryan, and it was a great time.
It was, and I look forward to joining you on Full Slate sometime in the future. And from there, we'll see where it goes. So appreciate it again, and have a great night, man.
Awesome. Thank you. You too, Ryan.
All right, take care. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Knup Sports Show. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider subscribing to our iTunes channel today. Plus, visit us at knupsports.com for more picks, previews, strategy, and news. That's KNUP Sports.